Go.
What's going on, everybody? It's your observant lineman, Uche Waneri. And I have my boy. I think this is like, what, his second, third time on live stream?
How can I be your boy if you don't know how many times you have me on a live stream? First of all, let me just say.
Because I do so many live streams. What do you mean?
First of all, let me just say. When you sent me this email, Gmail thought you were a terrorist. It must have seen your name. And it was like straight up, this is a phishing scam. It saw that first name.
77, don't buy it.
It was like, this guy definitely is trying to sell you his long-lost relative that just found 5,000 gold bars and needs you to send over a social security number. So I laughed. I was like, no, I trust this guy. I don't know why, but I do. I mean,
this guy's got grit. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've seen what this guy does to the Indianapolis Colts. So even though I shouldn't trust him,
Hell yeah, man. So what a lot of people don't know is that me and Ryan, we talk a lot, and we've had a number of conversations prior to Madden 21 coming out where we're just like, all the signs were kind of there. When that first trailer dropped, all the signs were kind of there. You pointed out like the still kind of off base player logic when it's in the open field, allowing players to run over the top, allowing players to run freely at the sideline, not reacting appropriately to, angles on players, logos that were from, the 2019 season that were still on the Cowboys jerseys, the NFL 100 logo, all these little things that you pointed out, that you picked up on, that were really, you've got to be a thorn in EA's side, but you're not doing anything but just pointing out what's factually in front of our very eyes. So
I definitely had the I want to say Magic 8 Ball, but I know that's what I'm going for. What's the ball were you seeing in the future? What's that thing called?
The crystal ball.
The crystal ball. I had my crystal ball prepared. But no, you're right. I mean, first of all, we probably converse at least every week. I think, as you said, there was a lot of foreboding about what was going to happen. I know that a lot of times when you bring those things up, people want to take that negatively. You mentioned simple things, but to me, it's attention to detail, right? The jersey emblem is a big deal. When you can't get the little things right, you're never going to get the big things right. I mean, that's the detail of football, right? Go watch any breakdown that Peyton Manning's done. That whole detail series, rest in peace, Kobe, did an incredible job. I mean, bringing sports to life in many different ways. Cormier does it for MMA. You learn that, all those little nuances. I mean, nobody has to tell you you're a former lineman. All those little things matter in the long run. And, when you're trying to replicate a football game, you have to pay attention to those little things. And unfortunately, under a microscope this year, and EA's put themselves under a microscope continually with the status of this game. They just put themselves in a position where, little things started to add up. I mean, listen, spelling coverage wrong in an actual presentation, not being prepared to speak in a presentation, those are things that catch up to you quickly. And obviously when you get a final product that's being received like it is now, I think we can't help but look back at all those little things and say, like you said, there's a lot of yield signs that we were pumping the gas through. Are you smoking in your own friggin' house again?
Of course, it's my house.
This guy smoking in a house.
It's my house. I got the bowl nice and fired up. That's a different kind of smoke, though.
Yeah. The bowl fired up. Oh, it's a different kind of smoke. Okay. Yeah. Not exactly the Marlboro man over here.
No, not at all. So, look, dude, And I guess I haven't really talked about this before, but I mean, I talked to Clint. I talked to those guys. I've talked to them numerous times in the last 2 months, just about the game, just about my ideas for where I would take the game. And Ryan knows this, so this is really breaking to people who are watching the stream because I kind of kept it to myself just out of respect, just for, at that time talking with them about just potential things that could happen, because I was interested in helping them. I was interested in helping them just kind of come up with a new vision for franchise specifically. And, I'm not going to really talk about specifically, because I mean, at the outset of my conversation with Clint, I just kind of laid out my cards and how I, what I, as a fan of football games, expect, and what, I grew up with. And I told them, off the bat, I was an NFL 2K fan before I was ever a Madden fan. I was a Madden fan. I was a Madden player in my middle school days, early high school days, because it was the biggest game. But I mean, I wasn't necessarily, it wasn't just because it was Madden. It was because it was an NFL game, and there was a ton of NFL games that came out back then. So I mean, I had multiple different NFL games, and Madden was the biggest one, as it is now. But when NFL 2K came out on the Dreamcast, because I had a Dreamcast, I didn't get a PlayStation. NFL 2K was the only football game on the Dreamcast, because EA came out at that time. For anybody who's as old as me, this is 1999, and EA said they weren't going to support the Dreamcast. So Sega got Visual Concepts, who had made a couple of sports games for them in the past for Sega Saturn and the Genesis. Visual Concepts made NFL 2K. When I played NFL 2K the very first time, and I mean, we're talking about 1999, 2000, so you got to kind of take your imagination and what you perceive a good football game to be back a notch. There had never been anything like the on-the-field gameplay that was in NFL 2K. And for me, it was the most refreshing thing. The last Madden game I played before I got a Dreamcast the first Madden game that I played that year when NFL 2K came out on Dreamcast was garbage. It was so bad. It was low, it had a low rating from the magazines, from the Game Informers, from the EGMs. They all it got bad scores. It was their first foray into polygons. It looked terrible. It played terrible. It played, and this is crazy to say, but at that time, it played kind of like, there's a certain way that Madden plays that has never changed since they went to polygons. There's a certain feel to Madden games that has never changed.
Yeah, it's
the foundation of the programming for this product has been the same for almost 20 years.
Yeah, I was a game day guy myself. I played
Game
a lot
day
of
was great. Yeah, game day was great.
I had a friend of mine. I remember he had Sega CD, that old clunky thing you throw down into the cartridge slot, and he used to play Madden on it. I remember sitting there, God knows where I would end up being 20 years later, right? But I remember sitting there, watching Madden, and I was like, man, this thing moves so stale. And I remember when the PlayStation came out, I wanted to get one, but they had all those shipping issues, so I had no choice. I remember I was working, I'd saved up my money, and it's kind of one of those first times in life where you had saved your money and you really wanted something, and you just got tired of waiting. I was like, you know what? I can't wait anymore with these shipping issues. Mm-hmm. And I just went and got the Dreamcast. And I remember I got NFL 2K, and I can probably still play this out of my head. I watched Randy Moss catch a touchdown pass on the left side, about a 40-yard pass. And I said to myself right there, I've never seen any football game look like this.
Yeah.
And it literally, like I said, it probably shaped a lot of where my mind is now in terms of games. But you're absolutely right. Whenever I saw somebody play Madden, beyond that point, I had a coworker that played Madden. We actually played Madden a lot. I would go, drive down to his house with my memory card, and he'd have his team, he'd have my team. And it wasn't like it was bad times. But I distinctly remember, showing him, NFL 2K, and he was like, this is a different game. And I was like, yeah, this game isn't nearly as restrictive. You have, so much freedom of movement.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is I was actually, before I came on tonight, I was playing a game called Gridiron. I don't know if you've played it. It's on Steam.
I heard
and
about that. Yeah, yeah.
it's free. And to go back into a game now where you have just 100% movement, and the challenge of just catching a ball is so, I guess, hard to quantify. Like in Madden, it's funny. I always hear people talk about, that you want the game to do everything for you. I actually want the opposite. I don't want the game to do anything for me. I saw the guy's controller die during a championship game and he won the game still. So I don't know why we're talking about, the game doing things for you. But, going and trying to catch passes where it's just all you controlling the player.
It's you. And
yeah,
you're 100% correct, dude. And that's part of what I'm going to talk about in regards to the conversations that I've had with Clint Oldenburg. And I've talked to him and another cat. I can't remember his name, but he's the head of, I think he's the head guy for EA Sports, like the head guy. So before I get into that, make sure you smash that like button. I appreciate everybody for showing up here on the stream. I know we just kind of jumped on here, 1 a.m., late night.
1 a.m. in the morning. Thanks for showing up. Really
NFL Drop EA Community Hangout. We're going to try and do this every week, me and Ryan, and it'll be earlier than this. So, for everybody who has to get up on Monday morning and go to work, not me, this is the first time we're doing it. So we started up a little bit late. We had to work around a couple things scheduling wise, but no, I appreciate everybody for coming in, hanging out. But so conversations that I've had with the people who are most, I guess, exposed from EA to talking with the public on Twitter and things like of that nature. My first conversation in regards to my ideas, because we actually went. I mean, I've talked. I've had multiple Zoom meetings, a couple hours each, and just kind of took them through what I came up with in my mind as a player, and just as somebody who really does enjoy the franchise experience, like the building a juggernaut, building a long-lasting winning franchise in video games is I mean, that's what Madden did. That's what Madden had over NFL 2K up until 2K5. Now, I saw Soft Drink here in the chat. This guy does a lot of good work as well in the Madden community, and he asks 2K4, 2K5. 2K4's defensive AI was ruthless. It was merciless. You couldn't run anything on the defense in 2K4. 2K5, I think, had the perfect balance when it came to offensive and defensive gameplay. And obviously everybody knows 2K5 nostalgia. There's a lot of nostalgia associated with that game, but I'm going to get back to this conversation that we had. So I told, when I talked to Clint, and me and him talked via text for a while, and then we did a couple of a couple of Zooms with them. My thing was this, because I asked a number of questions about the dynamics of EA and why what is it, how do they operate, what is it that keeps them from delegating resources to franchise. And the main thing that they're dealing with over there, and that's why you don't see, I understand everybody's frustrations. You don't see me put too much out there in way of, just burying the game and burying how they operate, dealing with you guys in online, just because, we were both players, and I want to give him a little, I'm not going to pile on him. You guys do enough of that. Y'all don't need me to help. But, okay. So the way that they look at this, and the way that because there are different departments that handle different aspects of the planning of Madden. And to kind of make this as simple as possible, the average Madden player, based on their information, does not play the game for longer than around 15 to 30 minutes. That's the average when they average out all of of their online data, players are on for an average of around half an hour. So players are more, in their eyes, are more inclined to join and play in modes that have quick resolution, that don't take them a long time to, play through a session, and then, either play more or get off. So a lot of what their data is pushing them towards is modes that are more inclined to the casual gamer, not to an actual like invested gamer, the gamer that wants to spend 3 hours at a time playing the game in franchise mode, playing online MUT or anything that is going to take you closer to that hour mark. Their numbers show them that that's not what their customers want. That's what they're seeing. So my question to him was, okay, well, why is MUT an average MUT game takes an hour, almost an hour, 45. If you play the whole thing, it's 40 minutes, solid 40 minutes. So where, why isn't MUT being used in a more franchise, as a more of a franchise setup where you can set up your own leagues, your own team, your own setups to go different length of games and play through a season like that, instead of just going through the old rudimentary 7 or 8 game or 10 game season they have on there and just doing that over and over and over and over. You guys have got to be making a killing on microtransactions. And, they say to me that microtransactions actually don't factor in to what they're doing with the planning of the next of each Madden year. And really, they're already preparing for an end to microtransactions, because I brought up the point when he said that I brought up this point while I was talking about microtransactions, that you guys are, FIFA made like 800 million on microtransactions. I know that Madden has to be at least at that number. I mean, it only makes sense. And I said and part of my point to that was that microtransactions are now being seen as gambling more and more by more and more legislative bodies around the country. In Europe, they're seeing it the same way. They're calling all of this gambling, because I mean, if you have to spend 3 times the amount of what you actually paid for a game to actually like compete in it, then you're not buying the game. You're using that game as just the vessel for you to, dump more money into it to try and get better assets to use online. I mean, that's gambling. That's gambling. And his answer was that EA is already ready. They're already prepared to move to not have microtransactions. So I guess he was in a way trying to kind of, make a point that the microtransactions don't have anything to do with how they actually decide to build the game, which is okay. If that is what he says it is, which I had no reason to believe any different, then fine. That's actually a good thing to know, that you guys are actually preparing to stop all of that, or are ready to stop all of that and not have it affect how the game is put together or the resources that the game is able to have. That makes sense, or that's actually good. That's a good thing to know. But the other thing that I talked about was, from there we went deeper into franchise, because my point was, you guys aren't dedicating to franchise, and it's not even, the franchise is a completely different department of developers that work on that mode specifically. If you guys aren't developing franchise and you guys aren't giving that part of the game, it's just like that should be the meat of the game. And franchise should be online as well. That way you're playing against people who were playing online in your franchise. And from what he was telling me is that you know, they can't really do anything about franchise because of the legacy programming that's already hardwired into the game. And that programming is the foundational programming that has been there for years. So to an extent, they don't really have that much wiggle room from their perspective to improve franchise in a way that would be robust enough for everyone who has played it to really see it as something that's new, that's fresh. And my point to them was this, and I was being straight up with him because I told him I'm a 2K fan. I was a 2K fan first. And, you know, I want to help y'all with Madden because, I mean, I know football. I mean, I don't know, you know, game programming, but I know football and I understand what, you know, how things on just a position and not just X's and O's, but also the nuance. The nuance of football is something that you really, if you don't understand the nuances on the field, it'd be hard to really give somebody an accurate description of how to play football physically. But if I'm looking at football on the screen, I can tell you everything that should be happening based on what you guys' game is supposed to represent, a simulation, right? Well, and I told them, I said like this, if you guys don't present a franchise mode that is really a true franchise mode with true integration into online gaming as well, you guys have 5 years because you know who's going to be waiting with who probably already has a skeleton crew of developers that have been working on their game or working on the fundamentals of their engine for quite a long time. And 2K is waiting. 2K has been waiting, and 2K is right. This is all what I told them. I said 2K is waiting, and they have an opportunity to do it right one time, and they will take the market from you guys. I said they'll take the market. And because they already had a system in place 15 years ago that was better than what you have now. It's still ages better than what you have now. How can you expect to compete with the company that really put y'all on blast at the outset when they brought out a game that was so deep, had so much depth in its franchise mode that any professional athlete like myself could get on that game and set up a week-long game plan, practice, film study, weightlifting in the same exact fashion as I did it when I played in the NFL. And it works. And you see results come out of it. And it records your data and it updates your data and it saves that data and moves it along the season with you so you can track how you're actually performing as a team from every aspect of an NFL roster's, daily operation. You can actually track that. They had that 15 years ago. And a note that I made to him as well was 2K kept visual concepts when they got that company. They kept visual concepts and they kept the skeleton. They said it. You can find it online if you go deep enough. 2K kept a skeleton crew of developers to work on to continue to keep up to date and improve their football engine. Their football engine has been in the lab all this time. What do y'all think is going to happen? Y'all don't have nothing. Y'all ain't even working on nothing right now. Y'all aren't even working on anything right now. So what do you think is going to happen in 2026 when, at the latest, in 2026, when that deal is up and, God forbid these guys don't do anything substantial to this game over the next 5 years. That would be a nail in the coffin. That could be a nail in the coffin for the series as a whole. Because what if the NFL says, you know what, 2K, you guys can have it exclusive. We'll give you a decade. Look at what they did with basketball. Now, their basketball game has its own issues. All of the 2K sports games had little issues here and there that were more technical than anything that had to do with actual concept of how they wanted the game to be accessible. And you think that 2K is not going to be ready when this exclusivity deal is ready to be finished? They're going to be ready. They're just getting their feet in the market now with non-simulation games so that people recognize the brand when they're ready to bring out a simulation football game. And they're working on simulation right now. I guarantee it. So what are you guys going to do when that happens? Oh, well, these guys, we think 3 years ahead. We think 3 years ahead. I'm like, well, if y'all don't see that battleship in the horizon that is got a 5-year clock that's counting down from right now until they get to shore with their guns, y'all are going to be done. Y'all are going to be dead in the water. And if look at Madden 21. They didn't do anything to it. So what is it telling you? If you're not getting ready for it now, you're going to deal with it later. And I told them that's why I want to help you guys. Because, hey, if there were 2 football games on the market right now and 2K and Madden, I'd go talk to 2K because that's who I'd want to work with.
There's so many issues with the logic that's put out there. So number one, if the concept is that they're working ahead 3 to 5 years, then you can't tell me when the license became available or they got the exclusive license, they were prepared for this because they've already made an established presence in the market that they can't build upon what's there. So if I'm at EA, right, and I see the licenses coming up and I know that we don't have a base to build off our franchise, that we're stuck with what we have, then you have to say when we're making this financial commitment to purchase this license, we have to have things in place 3 to 5 years where our franchise is going to be able to be not only built, but pushed up to a higher level. If not, we're going to have dissatisfied customers. Now, not only did they have that 3 to 5 years, they doubled that 3 to 5 years. Now they're tripling that 3 to 5 years. And you're still not seeing anything in place. As a matter of fact, you can go look at what they have with Madden 22, and they've already made a non-committed response to bringing on the actual, whatever they wanted to add on. So in this whole time frame, the larger challenge that they faced, not in my opinion 2K, is more that you have games like Axis and Maximum that have came on and shown, in Maximum's case, we can build a dynasty mode in a single year. So they've got 2 people that can sit there and build a dynasty mode. And all of a sudden you have EA that can't do it in how long? It doesn't make any sense.
Hey,
there's more people cleaning the bathrooms at EA Sports than there are paid working on Axis and Maximum combined.
Yeah.
And they're doing things that you can't do. Now, I'm all for the concept of, they can't bring certain things in, right? Yeah. I'm completely understanding. I don't need drug suspensions. I don't need Darius Guy suspensions. I don't need Ray Rice suspensions, right? But what I need is a player gets hurt because he's hurt, okay? I don't need what I showed the other day on my channel where at the end of the play, Fuller just collapses goes into a donkey pose and then has to get back up and slams a generic helmet on the field like he's a kicker. He's got Mike Vanderjagt's 2004 edition helmet, even though he doesn't wear that on the field today. So, they've got so many things working against them. You want to feel bad, in a way. Unfortunately, you look at a day like today where, things culminate and unfortunately, good people get swept up in that. I hate to see, the reality is I hate to see something that should be a positive get construed into a negative, but I think a lot of what we saw today is frustrated consumers. Like you said, we've had enough. 15 years of this is far too much. We've tried being progressive with EA. We've tried being understanding with EA, and it's a perfect storm. Right now, people don't have excess money to spend. They spend it on a game. They have expectations. Those expectations weren't met. They've got more time now to be, verbally, demonstrative on exactly what's happening. There's no excuse that a game like this is uninstalled in a week. There's no excuse you have people that can't play attend. I'll tell you right now, the biggest thing that I don't think anybody is talking about is technically the people that got their 10-hour trials didn't actually get the franchise patch that was promised. So you basically have a company telling you, hey, try our game for 10 hours. And at the same time, they're admitting it's not the game that they were selling you because the day one patch hasn't even came in yet.
So they didn't get the day one patch?
They did, but they didn't get the franchise patch that was promised when they responded to fix Madden franchise. When Sean Grady came out there with a lip full of tobacco in front of a bulletin board with Madden taped to the back of it and said, "Hey, we've got a whole bunch of Band-Aids here and some bubble gum. We're going to get it chewed up and put this back together for you." That patch has not came out yet. The playoffs are still wrong. We're not talking about, small little things. We're talking about the actual playoff system doesn't work, right? I mean, what would Jim Morris say about that today, right? The playoff systems don't work in the Madden game. Like, how does this happen?
Playoffs?
You're talking about playoffs?
No, dude, look, I don't even touch Madden's franchise mode. I'll be dead ass honest. I won't touch it. I don't play it because it all it does is irritate me. Because there's a couple of things that always happen when you play Madden franchise mode. Because people who are good at Madden, you're going to play it on the hardest difficulty, right? But the problem with Madden is Madden also has programmed into it that whole, if you get up by more than a touchdown, the computer becomes utterly unstoppable. And they make plays they make plays in the movements of their players. They do things that you can never do in the game. They break an absurd amount of tackles. The passes are immaculately thrown by the worst quarterbacks. Doesn't matter what you do, you get beat. And then on top of that, you have the situation with the trade system. The trade system doesn't work. We tested it ourselves together. And it doesn't work. We traded what? What did we trade? We traded some terrible players and got the best player, pretty much the best player in the league.
I see it this year already. I see people putting out, and I think the problem with that logic is there's always going to be, a Ryan Grigson in the NFL. There's always going to be some trade that goes through that people will point out and say, well, look at how stupid that is. But, the reality of it is you can very certainly look at a number of teams, the Colts being one. I saw how many different trades for Quentin Nelson. And I don't mean like, here's our best lineman and a second round pick. I mean, here is a Cherry Danish, a 5th round pick, and a practice squad receiver, and you take one of the best linemen in the league. It's not going to happen. I was surprised that I was truthfully surprised the Colts let go of Henry Anderson. That's always been kind of my going back to moment of, trades can happen. But, the reality is Henry Anderson had some injury issues, which don't seem to impact Madden at all because there's no real player history. I think when you talk about one of the big problems with franchises, you kind of said it in a nutshell. You don't get connected to it at all. I don't feel like this is my team. I don't feel emotionally invested in cutting a player. I don't feel like I care about any of it because all they are just names on a screen. They don't even react, in my opinion, the way they should based on their ratings. The living world element of that franchise mode is completely gone. Go play through one season in Maximum Football, for example, and tell me that you don't get a different emotional connection to your team. There's a lot of things that bring that on. When I have to build a roster of players that I scout, when I build a custom logo for my team, when I pick my colors, when I go through all these things, subliminally you're becoming connected to a team and a game, whether you like it or not. And unfortunately, EA has stripped its game of so many of those things. We don't get that opportunity to become invested. To go back what you talked about before, it seems like what they want to do is push us into these really tight, you've got 15, 20, 30 minutes to play a game. Well, guess what? A couple years ago, you were making time to play Madden. Hey, I'm going to play Madden this weekend with my buddies, and we're going to game for 2 or 3 hours. Yeah. It seems like they've controlled that narrative of we want you in and out of our game. And, oh, by the way, the least time you can spend with it, the least you're going to see its flaws. But why don't you buy a bundle and a pair of cleats on the door, out the door for your My Yard player, whatever they have, I mean, that's sadly, and listen, I'm not knocking that. Listen, I don't mind anybody getting paid in this whole realm. I don't care how you want to make money with this game. I don't care how they make money. But at the end of the day, don't take people's money and then deliver a poor product. I mean, that's all there is to it. And this year, it's not just a poor product. It's your, you're sitting there and throwing salt in the wound, right? When I've got Clint Oldenburg talking about 2 is better than 1, and it's the game review, man, I don't know.
Bad.
I don't know how you, and listen, I'm the worst. I probably joked 6 or 7 times during this.
I mean, it's a joke, right? We know he's being sarcastic when he says it, but this is how you got to look at it. That's like getting blown out by the Patriots and then talking to fans online after the game and saying, well, at least we got a field goal,
or joking about Tim Tebow, right?
Yeah, like have a little respect for the fact that you guys aren't looking too good right now, and just say, well, we sucked today. We had a bad game. We got blown out. That's on us. You know
what that reminds me of is a lot of fans will get upset after a game when players exchange jerseys. Well, this guy just smoked you. Why do you want? You remember seeing Lamar Jackson, since he's in our background here, coming out with a trash bag full of game jerseys because everybody on the opposing team wanted one. And I remember countless fans come out and saying, hey, can you not do that in the middle of the field? I don't care that you want this guy's jersey. I don't want this guy that just lit you up giving you anything,
Well, with that really boils down to, that's like a tradition. That's sort of a tradition in the NFL. It's bigger now than
fans
it was.
Are removed from that though.
Yeah, fans don't really, they're not hip to why that really happens. When the game's over, we all know, a lot of us know each other. A lot of us are friends, not like close, but we're friends. If I see a guy when I'm out somewhere, if I'm in a different state and I run into a player who I recognize and we see each other, we'll kick it, we'll hang out, we'll do whatever. It's a brotherhood, right? So players do want to interact when the game's over, even with win or lose. I mean, I've had games where, I was pissed off after a loss, but when the game was over and, you're shaking hands with other teammates, other coaches, that anger is now subdued for the moment, because it's this is past the game now. We're talking about just showing that brotherhood, showing that friendship, showing the goodwill, catching up with guys you may have been teammates with in college. You'll hang out for a few minutes after the game, maybe trade jerseys, definitely take a couple pictures, and then you're back in the locker room. And now you refocus on, okay, this game sucked, we had a bad game, or hey, it was a great win, team effort, and you start moving forward. It's a 24-hour and you turn the page kind of mindset. So that, in respect to players in real life and how they interact on the field, that explains that. But with the game,
but in that case, though, I think you have to understand, and having competed myself and having been absolutely blown out in races, but also taking time to respect that, the people that I did get to compete against, I was first in line to exchange a helmet or exchange gloves, when we were done, because I wanted those memories for myself. At the same time, when competition was over, I was reflective of myself, right? I was mad that, I had not done everything that I felt I could do, or I felt that I had done something that specifically led to a failure. From a fan's perspective, I don't have that same emotion. When the Colts lose, I'm mad the Colts lost. Yeah. I'm not self-reflecting and saying, hey, I wish I could have done this or that different. So I think that same mindset, they expect Clint to.
It's competition. It's being competitive. It's what the NFL prides itself on, and being the most competitive league in the world.
In this case, there's no competition. So who are you going to be mad at?
And with that being said, we got our first super chat over here from Geeks of Liberty, $5. I appreciate that. Geeks of Liberty. He says, it's so bad. Perfect example of a monopoly. When there isn't companies competing for our money, the product and the consumers suffer.
Well, Monopoly was fun to play.
Yeah, Monopoly's a fun game if you got money. But yeah, I think that this kind of speaks to exactly what we are talking about here, is that, for a league that prides itself on the level of competition that players are competing at and the ultra competitiveness to make an NFL roster, competition brings out the best. For them to have that as a pillar of the NFL culture and allow one company to control the entire market of their brand, and not only control that market, but just becomes lazy and apathetic about how they treat the product. I would have thought that with what happened in Madden Bowl, of all things, just to completely negate the entire concept of competition by using a punter as a quarterback, I would have thought that the NFL would have seen that and said, no, that's not good for our brand. And that's not what our brand is really, that's not what the NFL brand represents. It doesn't represent, cheating to be a winner. And I say that knowing that the 2007 New England Patriots almost pulled it off. But when the NFL, or when NFL 2K5 presented a clear and direct threat to EA Sports through competition, through competing and creating an exceptional product, when they did that, the EA Sports, in their way of nullifying that threat, was to buy out any resources that the most crucial resource that competitor could have in their arsenal to take on EA Sports. And yes, the NFL did put that license up for basically auction to whoever was the highest bidder. But even with that being said, everyone knows who the highest bidder is going to be. Doesn't matter. I don't even think 2K Sports could bid enough money to buy that license now if they wanted to get it from the NFL, to buy it exclusively. They couldn't do that because they have a vast portfolio of games that they spend hundreds of millions of dollars on. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't be able to. They don't have that resource, those kind of resources available to just get it done. But if all in the playing field is level, and you just say, here, you have the license and you have the license, now may the best company win. EA has shown in a lot of, and not just only the sports genre, but in a lot of genres in the video game industry, that they cannot compete with top tier AAA developers who dedicate, 5, 6, 7 years to their development cycle for games that are going to be considered their AAA titles. Madden, and sports games in general have a little bit of a different cycle because you build on what you have. You build on what you've created. You don't just restart each and every year with a new engine. You don't just restart, every cycle with, brand new development teams. So there's a bit of a curve that works in favor of the developer in being able to build on the engine that they have in place, build on the programming that they have in place. But the problem with Madden is that they bring over an outdated programming foundation and they transition it into a generation of video games that it doesn't really belong in. And it's hindered by, because it's a proprietary system that they created, that they have locked the doors on in certain aspects of it, that you can't build upon it without having to tear it all down and start from scratch. That's their fault. They should have, EA mandates that all their games use the Frostbite engine. The Frostbite engine was never made for sports games. It was made for first-person shooters. It was made for Battlefield. It wasn't made for Madden, but they custom fitted it to Madden. And that's just a shoe that doesn't fit. And we've been seeing that this entire console generation. So what are they going to do in the next generation? Are they going to have an entirely new engine? Something tells me that's not going to happen. Something tells me they're not building a new engine for the Series X and the PS5.
Well, no, because if you go back and you look at the earliest days when they brought in, I believe it was the Infinity engine, the concept itself, the concept that they have, and this is probably the biggest takeaway I've ever had from dealing with EA. Unbelievable concepts, like great concepts, the worst possible execution you could imagine. So the concept is we have a universal engine, right? And all of these all of these independent games share it. So information moves from one hand to the next, one team to the next, as one team builds, as one team refines, as one team grows. That growth is done across all the games. So, your living environments, your textures, your shaders, all those things incrementally get better, yet you don't actually have one person, one group working on them. So it's a really good concept. The point, though, that I think often gets overlooked is you can go out and you can look at other games, right? Whether they're using the Unreal Engine, whether they're using Unity, you go out and you can see how other independent games are able to take base engines and really create very different products with them, yet somehow EA has been able to just not master this. So they're never going to take the resources, the money, the time. I know people don't want to hear about the time, but the time it would take to literally sit down and create an entire system specifically designed for football is not going to be something EA is interested in doing, if for no other reason. Right now, number one, they're in a time-tested system. This, whether we like it or not, has been making them money. It may not be making the best product, but it is making them profit. So there would be a fear, right? If we can displace ourselves and we're at EA and we're looking at all this revenue coming in, and now all of a sudden you're going to tell me, well, guess what? We've got a couple angry customers here. We're still, and this is the one thing that people don't like to hear about, we're still getting all this microtransaction money. And we've diversified this year, by the way. We're not only getting it from card packs, but we're getting it from digital clothing. We're still getting all this digital money. No one is going to sign off on, well, get a whole new system built, get a whole new system in place, and we'll start everything over again. You mentioned earlier, I think a big part of what drove the yard and what drove the microtransaction clothing is, as he said, the underlying fear is that ultimately one of these, this is gambling cases, is going to stick. At this point, it's just a numbers game, right? It's anything in life, right? Yeah. I'm not saying they're right. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying if you bring 100 cases, right, in the court of law, you're going to get one lawyer that finds that way to tell that judge or to explain to that jury, no, this is gambling. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what I think. There is always going to be lawyers that are going to sit there and look at a company like EA and sign up to take a case knowing that they're going to get it. And one of these guys is going to get it. We just don't know which one. I think every day it gets closer and closer because I think EA has done way too much to take all the things that you see in gambling, right? If you go into a casino right now and you just think about, any gambling machine, right?
And 2K does this too. I mean,
they all do
2K
it.
does it too, but there's a difference. 2K actually produces a far better product.
Think about a jackpot, right? When you hit a jackpot at a casino, you get lights, you get noises, you get a lot of sensory overload. Yeah. Those are the same things, and it's no coincidence that a mud pack gives you, right? It vibrates the controller, it flashes, there's graphics on the screen, subliminally.
Explosion sounds.
Exactly. Yep. Subliminally, you're programming someone to want that feeling. They want to relive that feeling. I got the, it's, I guess, I've heard people make a really bad analogy of like a scratch off, but it's completely different from that. You want them to relive that golden ticket, and with that, you have to realize that there's a whole game that's played where, there's creators on YouTube that spend $2,000-$3,000 a month, and whether they edit the video down to 5 minutes or whether they show the whole thing, they're showing an experience they have, where as human beings, we want that same experience. And unfortunately, you have people that go and chase that experience financially and put themselves in really dire straits. I just read an article about a guy that was playing FIFA and, blew tons of money. I mean, literally unfortunately, I don't want to say unfortunately, but because this happened over in the UK, it probably won't get the publicity here, but was, going down to the store and getting cards, getting what just happened. Something weird happened. I'm back. Going and getting like prepaid cards to hide from his parents how much he was spending. And, unfortunately, there's no checks and balances. You know that as well as I do.
Yeah.
The parental controls in video games, the harsh truth is, as somebody that's had to try to work them, I mean, come on.
They're
I've
just
got
placeholders. They're not anything
I
more than a
mean, yeah,
placeholder.
give me a break. I listen, I know my way around a video game, believe it or not. And if I can't sit here and figure out how to use these parental controls, then there's no way a parent that's completely disconnected from it does. And, if you really want to sit here and play devil's advocate, they don't want the parent to figure out how to use the controls. They want that E is for everyone slapped on that disc, because the parent, unfortunately, whether they want to use the video game as a babysitter or they just don't know what goes on. I remember, I remember getting Mortal Kombat, and there was a big rush when the ESRBs were coming out, that, games weren't going to have them. And I knew as a kid, I have to get this thing now, because in 3-4 months, it might raise a red flag that this thing's got a giant, M18 plus on it. So let me scream now and get this game, because later it's going to be an uphill battle. Unfortunately, we're dealing with something far more different than violence, which can be found. I mean, I don't know. You have Netflix. I started to watch this Hoops cartoon the other day, and I was like, man, I'm old as anything, because I'm watching this cartoon and I'm like, bro, I don't know if I agree with all this stuff just being at a kid's disposal, but far more sinister. And it's funny because we had a private conversation about this earlier. Far more sinister in people's lives is spending money needlessly, and there is no more, in my opinion, needless spending than Madden Ultimate Team in the yard. That, buying digital mossed clothing for your player to run around in is the definition of ridiculous. That's my outside perspective. I don't get playing dress up with my Madden players, but I get that people do enjoy it. But they need to really reevaluate how they handle this. And I feel like if they're going to sell these, pieces of clothing, it needs to be kept, forever. It should be, the yard is earmuffs, people. The yard is a permanent fixture in Madden, and any clothing you buy today, someone's going to clip this, any clothing you buy today is infinitely yours to wear. Because other than that, you're taking advantage of consumers on just a whole different level.
No, you're absolutely right. And, I don't understand why the yard wasn't just made into its own game. Why didn't they just spend a year in development with that, with a different team of developers?
Because what else were they going to put in Madden 21? I mean, to be fair, they put Superstar KO in as a patch. I know people will sit there and get irritated with me, but to me, I don't, my ignorant self from a simulation football standpoint, which is the only way they're actually able to sell this game, I don't see any difference in the yard versus Superstar KO. If you recall, Superstar KO came in on a free weekend where anyone could go download the game and play it in the hopes that they would increase their sales. So the fact that they brought the yard in this year really surprised me, because to be fair, it's not that, it's not
robust enough to be considered a wholehearted game. I mean, they don't even have an announcer for it, which really was a shock.
They do have those same boring soundtracks to play.
Yeah, they just have a soundtrack playing
over and over again. Yeah,
and I was thinking to myself, wow, boy, and I actually text Clint Oldenburg over this. I said, y'all plan on putting an announcer in the yard? And he said no. And I said, no. He said, why? You want to do it? I said, hell yeah, I'd do it. I'd be a great announcer for the yard. But they don't have any plans to put an announcer in there. So that's just going to be the yard. It's a silent, lifeless, soulless mode. It does have some cool gameplay mechanics that would work far better on a better engine, on an engine that wasn't, tied down to play like Madden and could play like NFL Blitz or something of that nature, where you have tighter control, you can throw the ball further, you can pitch it back further, you can do all these different things, and you're not tied to being, the pressure system that they have in the regular portion of the game that's now in the yard. So if a guy gets close enough, he can make your passes will be off the mark just because of the pressure. Well, this is supposed to be an arcade style game. Shouldn't be any kind of pressure manipulation of my ability to throw the ball. And for the things that the concepts that they actually introduce that can be fun concepts, the execution of all of it was bland. It fell flat for me. It fell really flat. I played it for, I streamed to my subscribers to show them the game, and I played it for a little bit. And once I got done with the stream and I played it offline or off the stream, it started to grow on me, and I was like, okay, this is all right, this is cool. But then you start to realize the big pieces that it's missing, like the announcer, like more over the top nature. It's really just a slightly sped up Madden, 7 on, or basically, well, I guess what, 3-on-3 or 6-on-6, I don't even know, 3-on-3 matchup. So it's not really true to any one side of the spectrum. It's not really arcade, but it's not simulation. You know that. So for me, they should have taken more time and produced a fully fleshed out game called NFL Yard, the EA Sports The Yard, whatever, and release that as a separate product. At least with that, you have a dedicated portion of development working on that, and you can have the rest working on the actual simulation football game. Now, with franchise,
by the way, right now, it's a matter of time before DJ Khaled and Snoop Dogg are the announcers in that game mode.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I can see it. I could see it happening. But like I said, they don't have any plans to. So it doesn't seem like it's anything.
You wait. You'll be hearing another one every time there's a score.
And another one.
Yeah.
But with franchise, and this was really the meat of the conversations that I've had with the guys over there, EA, was just giving them, they wanted to hear what my, concept that I was thinking of with franchise. And I talked to you about this when I actually, spoke with them. I look at the franchise mode and I say, okay, you have your traditional franchise mode. How do you want to bring that or make that something that is more unique than what you've had, without just adding some things that people want, but actually fleshing it out into something that does really provide incentives, does really provide, more to the casual gamer for participating in the franchise mode, rather than just having a pay to win mode and in the background having our dear franchise mode just sitting back there catching, getting cobwebs. And my idea to them was fantasy franchise
with DJ Khaled.
No, with none of that. And without going into too long of a description of this, I basically, I basically shared an idea that if you took the concept of fantasy football and applied it to a franchise in a franchise mode, then you would have basically your own, I guess, for lack of a better word, you'd have your own open world style environment, or your own living environment for players who play Madden to be working in the franchise mode with multiple years, with year tracking, with players going out of the league and into the league. You'd have a fantasy draft to start every season, and players would be able to pick whether they wanted to play 4, 6, 8, or 16 game seasons. So if you have people who only spend a short amount of time in the game, based on what you told me, then you have an option with a 4-game season for them to have a quick moving season. Every team and you accumulate your points. You draft your players in the same way you would draft your players in fantasy football. Your offensive line would be kind of a mix of different players, maybe automated by the system as the O-line. But you would draft your skill positions, and you would draft your offensive and defensive skill positions, and everything would work in the same way in game as it would in fantasy football. So playing a game of Madden would turn into a game where where you actually earn XP, you earn coins based on goals accomplished within the game that are directly connected to real life football.
You have lost
concept.
the chat, by the way. The chat is already so lost with your idea. Although Kylix did determine that you gave them the idea for the spokes player. Was you, right?
Yeah. But long story short, you would get points, you would gain XP in game by completing certain tasks. So if you're a certain percentage on third down, you'd get a number of points for that. If you're a certain percentage on fourth down, if you're a certain percentage in the red zone, on defense, all these major stats that we all keep up with during the football season, these are all things would be tracked and would be built into a reward system that rewarded the player for playing in the right way. Now, if you're one of those people who runs around with the quarterback all day online to, get yards, or you run the same plays over and over with crossing routes that, the game just cannot cover because it just is not programmed well enough to recognize what's happening to it, then you actually would not gain points. You could win a game without actually winning the point battle, which in the bigger scheme of things, your team doesn't improve because your teams would improve based on the points you get, and your rating and your rankings would not really scale up because you're not an adaptive player. You're playing the game one way, and you're not completing the objectives that gain you points. And that, in a nutshell, whether people can really understand that or not, without it being written on something or drawn up. I mean, I talked to these guys for like an hour explaining this. They understood what I was saying, and they were receptive to it. They really thought it. I mean, and part of me was like, you guys ever thought of this? Fantasy football is like the biggest thing next to football. So if you combine that and create a fantasy, a franchise structure based on fantasy football's mechanics from, with the point system, then you could have an online fantasy franchise that you can build your teams each and every year in that franchise. You can monetize, because again, I was thinking you got to have monetization in there, or
for them to care about it.
You can monetize certain buffs like you would have in an RPG game. So you can have a 2-game speed buff for your first wide receiver. And let's say you're
still lost every one of the comments. I'm following along with their confusion.
Oh, okay. I'm saying, okay. People are confused.
Do you have your phone on you?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to text you this link so you don't confuse anyone else. And listen, I just want you to start to read this story. Okay. Just read aloud like a story time for these people.
Hey, send it to my email. That way I can.
Well, it's already to your phone. So great planning. Hold on.
Send it to my email. That way I can share it with the
chat. I have to let the email know that you're not a phishing scam from Beijing first, and then it'll allow me to. What did this thing actually? Why do you have your last name? It literally says, "Be careful with this message."
Oh no! You know what? I got it. I got it right here. Never mind. I got the link.
I didn't want to break the internet by responding to this thing.
Okay, so I'm going to share this with the chat so that everybody can see it. I have not seen this article, but we're going to go.
Oh, but you're about to read it. Story time, kids.
It's story time, guys.
Who wants a bedtime story?
Oh, what just happened?
Oh, that's the internet coming for you. It knows that you're a long lost.
Oh, what are all these application errors and go?
What'd you get?
I don't know what the heck is going on right now.
I told you gotta. That's why I sent it to your phone.
That's I actually have a. Hold on here. Let me. Oh crap! All right. Stay. I might hop out for a second and hop right back in. Let's hold on.
This guy, unprepared.
It's technology.
Oh, there he went. All right, what's up, guys? Try to get some questions in real quick while Uchi gets his internet squared away here. Not all at once. Yeah, Uche does not use ad block. He does not use ad block. He's on Netscape apparently over here. I don't believe that he posted the link either. Now it's just me. Now he's back.
Okay, so yeah, I was trying to share this.
Yeah, these people want to know why you don't have ad blockers. It's 2020, dude.
No, I do have ad blockers. I don't know what the hell just happened. My computer.
Yeah, I know what happened. You were on a different type of website before you fired up this stream.
Yeah, right. Yeah, all right, okay. Here we go.
Yeah, all of a sudden, yeah.
All right, we're gonna share this with
surprise. I got all these pop-ups. Okay.
Well, maybe it's the website you sent me that caused it.
Yeah, maybe it's the Ringer. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. The Ringer. Okay. The Ringer says how Madden has produced a generation of smarter football fans.
Before you get into this, I'm not trying to be mean, but read this article while you can, because the Ringer is going through some heavy layoffs, and this article probably isn't going to help.
All right, let's check this. Let's check this thing out. All right. So
Tig Nation says Clint was trying to hack into your internet to kill your stream.
Oh man, that's what happened. I believe
maybe Clint was sending those links. He did get caught catfishing one time.
What?
That's the whole problem me and Clint had, was he got caught catfishing, and I called him out in a video 2 years ago.
Oh wow.
The one girl, there was this one, I actually sent the PMs I sent to this person. There was a girl there was a guy that sent pictures, took pictures of a gamer girl, made a profile, and started to follow all the Madden gamers. And then, I don't know how I got included in this. And then asked Clint publicly if she could be a game, like she actually just came out, because I sent her a message. I said, "Is your name Amanda?" Meaning a man, duh. And then I said, yeah, it's a Clintfish. So basically I said, listen, man, this isn't really funny. And by man, I mean, I know you're a guy. So what happened was they, used provocative gamer pictures and then openly said that they wanted to be a game changer. And Clint responded, unsolicited, "I know a guy." And the community got absolutely irate, because we were like, wait a second, man. Are you serious? You've got people that have been in the community here for years, and all of a sudden, you're looking at Titty McGee and you're ready to start handing out, the thing. And after that, he obviously the best thing they do is backpedal, unless you're playing a defensive back in Madden. He backpedaled and said, "Oh, we're inclusive and all this stuff." And I was like, "Come on, man, get out of here! Right? We know, come on now, we know what you're doing."
You was you.
You were said that to everybody, and then he was like, "Oh, this gonna ruin my life. This gonna ruin my yeah, whatever. Okay, maybe you shouldn't have been desperate on the internet trying to hand out game changer awards. Get out of here, you big oaf." So then once that got outed, he didn't want to talk to me anymore.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Well, what's horrible is, I was the one sitting there. There was a select few people in the community that quickly realized, hey, something isn't right here. And why would this girl all of a sudden try to communicate to all of us? The old Studley Madden Nation we are. So, some of us had, this thing called common sense. And, the problem is I have a female in my life where if any female tries to get on my phone and start messaging me, somehow, number one, she finds out. And then secondly, I hear about it. And then third of all, she tells me all about this person. So I don't know how many people are in unhealthy relationships, but it is what it is. So here, with all that said, that's the history of me and Clint. I want you to read this with a straight face. First of all, just can you describe this picture for those that can't see it? What's on this image you see on your screen?
Oh, this is the image of some guy with some cis male with glasses on, trying to decipher X's and O's.
But what's in the background of this? These are
and
two
it says
things.
Madden.
Is that not oil and water if you've ever seen it?
Oh my! It doesn't even mix X's and O's in Madden. No.
All right.
Okay,
go ahead and read.
let's go into this article.
This Pulitzer winning piece.
This article is from Kalen Jones.
Don't say his name, guys.
3 days ago. All right. So it says the video game franchise has come a long way since it launched in 1988. Now the concepts in the game are good enough that they help fans understand what it is happening on the real field. That's not.
Yeah,
you stop. That's not where you want to start.
You're supposed to just read it.
And let's see, this part here I'm gonna kind of go over because this is where it actually starts. It says, for many NFL fans, Madden represents the foundation of their NFL obsession. Football heads can watch only a handful of games each week, but they can play hundreds of Madden games in the interim. After more than 30 years on the market, Madden has become the quintessential football game series. It is the only football game series.
You're adding things in.
But this is misrepresenting.
Listen, I said just read it. I said just read it.
No, I'm going to read it and I'm going to give my commentary to these people so they know.
They know. You don't have to tell them.
Yeah, I mean, I know they know, but I'm going to tell them again. Okay. So it says, and as the animation and artificial intelligence of the game has expanded, it started to better reflect real football. Hell no. That's not even close.
I'm going to have this framed, by the way. I'm going to have this framed to put on my wall for inspiration. You know how some people put like an iceberg up on their wall and it's like, be immovable. I'm going to put this up and just say every day work to show people this isn't true.
Oh my goodness. So in the mid 2010s, Madden began to shift the way it presented football concepts. Anthony White, a Madden game designer who's worked at EA Sports since 2005, was responsible for ushering in the football concepts portion of Madden 15 skill trainer mode. Oh man, do they still have a skill trainer mode at all?
No, they don't. Listen, facts don't need to be in this article, okay?
In it, users are walked through how to read and attack defensive coverages, including cover 1, 2, 2-man, cover 3, cover 4, and cover 6, and how to counter blitzes. It marked the first time the game provides users with in-depth tutorials on how to comprehend football tactics. Man, I sure remember NFL 2K5 having a lot of well thought out, knowledgeable information on playing the game of football. But okay. Quote, we built a skills trainer where we can actually teach some of the concepts, teach players how to actually read them the way a real life NFL or college quarterback would read them, White says, because with the high level goal being if you go into the game and you have somewhat of a basic understanding of what the player is supposed to be doing and how the concept works, it'll make you a better gamer. In that regard, you'll play the game and you'll have a much more enjoyable experience. Wow, wish we could say that is actually factual, because I play that game. I only know how to play football in a sim-like style because that's football. That's the only way I know it. I don't ever see, well, I won't say I don't ever see, because there are some players I played against online who do play it in the sim manner, and the games are great games because of it. But we all know that once you find that money playing Madden, all that goes out the window. But to go on, it says the game has come to play a role in nurturing NFL fandom. It educates fans on rosters, team management, playbooks, and more. In recent years, Madden has taken significant steps toward helping its players comprehend the game at a more nuanced level. Madden's ability to teach players route concepts, how to read coverages, and how player types impact their fit in specific schemes is turning out a generation of smarter football fans. If you're able to understand and comprehend what it is you're looking at in the video game, it's going to help you play the game better, White says. That's pretty just That's
How
pretty
many
that's pretty
vague
honestly, and common like knowledge. If you understand something, whether it be a football game or whether it be calculus, if you understand what you're looking at and you know why you're doing what you're doing, you'll probably be much better at it than if you didn't.
I just want to know how many edibles were taken before this thing was written.
Oh man, I mean, edibles. How many?
How many hallucinogens did you take before writing this?
How many drinks did he have where he looked better, where he actually thought that the game was better than it is? And now let's keep going here. It says the Madden NFL series has come a long way in the 3 decades since its release. The earliest versions, I don't think we all want to hear about that. Let's skip down past that, past the old pre-2006 Maddens.
She said, did this guy wake up? Yes, this guy just woke up. He was in a tragic Madden accident and has been asleep for 7 years.
Okay, so let's go into kind of the next gen world here. Madden 06, the first title, and I'm right here, guys, for everybody trying to keep up. Madden 06, the first title playable on the next gen console, Xbox 360, introduced the QB Vision Cone. Madden 11 introduced Game Flow, which allowed for players to shorten games and improve its franchise mode by allowing for online play. Madden 12 set the ever-popular Ultimate Team mode in motion.
Ever popular.
Yeah. Madden 13's Infinity Engine incorporated weight, center of mass, body type, and height to create more realistic in-game action. In the years since, Madden has touched up gameplay, AI, and animations to create an authentic playing experience. Now,
did he forget half those things got removed from the game? I love how he just lists them as if they're still there. Imagine reading that article and then getting Madden 20 and being like, where's the Vision Cone?
Now, look, I'm going to say right here, right now, look, everything they're talking about from past Maddens, okay, yes. Madden every year had a gimmick that it included into the game. The QB Vision Cone, I never used it. I didn't use it because to me there was too much that you had to focus on without that cone.
No. Listen, you didn't use it because you're a lineman and you hate quarterbacks. So why would you use a vision?
I'm an old lineman. If I hated him, I'd let him get hit every chance I could. But these are all gimmicks that Madden put into the game. We all know this. We all know that the game. That the way that they presented that game going into the Xbox 360 next generation, what was it, Xbox 360 and PS3, these were things that didn't really change the game. They didn't change they didn't really take that big of a step up in the mechanics of how the game worked. They were like nice, neat little novelties. Sometimes they worked for the better. Sometimes they didn't. But
I can't have you talking bad about the Vision Cone. That's my limit.
To me, the most innovative thing that Madden ever came up with before anything else was the hit stick. That is to me the most innovative thing they have ever done with Madden was the hit stick. But let's move on in this article and let's go a little bit deeper here. It says White joined EA in 2005 after his contributions to a friend's blog dedicated to Madden strategies in the late 90s and early 2000s caught the eye of EA higher ups. He was a member of Madden's community leadership program when he wrote the article in 2004.
Okay, pause. Basically what that means is, and this is the way so many people get brought into EA, they found him through, a YouTube channel or through writing something, a forum, if you will. They brought him into the Game Changer program. I love how this guy probably calls like his job resume when he first graduated and worked at like Food Lion. He probably called himself a food transfer technician to make the bagger job seem really important. The fact that he uses all these words to make people feel as if they were doing something more than they actually did is hilarious to me. They found him on a message board. Practically, he was in the Game Changer program, and they hired him from there. Like, that's what happened. This guy, like you said.
So he basically was somebody who was good at the game.
This is one of the best articles. This is one of the best Madden articles I've ever seen, because what you don't know is EA actually was retweeting this. EA was retweeting this, and the ratings adjuster was like, "Oh, I met this guy on the sidelines of some game before he wrote this, and I love what he did here." And it's like, you have to be kidding me.
So it says he was part of their community leadership program when he wrote the article in 2004 about how to weaponize the Colts stretch run game. And White's they're going through the history of his of this guy, moving up the ladder in EA. But I'll go through it quickly. In White's first years with EA Sports, he primarily contributed to NCAA football's playbook content. In the early 2010s, ESPNU teamed up with EA to produce a series called The Making of NCAA Football. And in 2012, White and NCAA football producer Ben Homeler visited Stanford University for an episode to chat with the Cardinal head coach, David Shaw, then offensive coordinator Pep Hamilton, and then offensive line coach Mike Bloomgren, and then running backs coach Mike Sanford. White and Shaw's staff were shown breaking down Spider 2 Y Banana 1 year before John Gruden broke it down on Monday Night Football, and 3 years before Gruden went viral for breaking it down with Marcus Mariota on an episode of Gruden's QB Camp.
How much sense does that make, to be completely 100% honest? None. They broke down
a hell of a they broke down Spider 2 Y Banana. So Spider 2, just hearing Spider 2, that's a slide protection. So Spider, which is a replacement for the word slide. So that's slide. We would call that jet. So it would be Jet 2 Y Banana, which is a basic protection that would call your will linebacker, which would be for the strength of formation. That would be the linebacker on the left side of the offensive line. It's either going to be a slot nickel, or it's going to be your weak side linebacker. That's who you're going to call. And the offensive line is blocking the 4 down lineman to that weak side backer / slot. The next 2 linebackers in the box, or whatever linebacker remains in the box, is on the running back. The running back will pick up that linebacker if he comes on a blitz. If he doesn't, the running back may check for him to come on a blitz and then release on a swing or release on a route. But it's about as basic pass protection as you're going to see anywhere in the NFL. It's just the fundamental slide protection, point blank. That's it. That's nothing to really be impressed so much about if you know football. White chopped it up with Stanford's coaches and even took a look at examples from the Cardinals' West Coast playbook. At some point, the discussion turned to how Shaw's staff teaches concepts to players. Hamilton and Shaw explained that their formations and plays are designed to appear complex to keep defenses on their toes, but the coaches don't start by teaching their offensive players the formations. They find that concepts are more digestible to players when route concepts such as a curl flat combo are introduced first, then applied to different formations. Conversations with those Stanford coaches inspired White and Madden designers to consider the same approach for Madden. Just a couple of years later, they added the option to choose offensive plays by route concepts in Madden 15. So they just became more efficient in the breakdown of a playbook. That's just an uptick in efficiency. I wouldn't really call that innovation. It's something that teams do and have done forever. Everything is broken down by categories in the playbook. You have your inside zone, outside zone. You have your power plays, your man blocking schemes. You have your slide protection, your base protection, your play action protection. And you have your specials, which are like reverses, maybe wildcat formations, things of that nature. So again, for the uninitiated, yes, this may sound like, wow, they really did their homework, but really they were just learning the basics from people who know what they're doing, on an actual real life football level. So continuing, the NFL has evolved in the years since White's visit to Stanford. Madden has tried to keep up. NCAA Football 14 marked the final installment of EA Sports College Football Series, so White's role with Madden has only increased since. He's aided developing playbooks by keeping in contact with coaches across the NFL, studying the game on a regular basis, and utilizing the data and resources provided to Madden developers by the NFL. White, who has a background in computer tech, has built a network of coaches during typical. What does that have to do with anything?
We're trying to sell a game here. We're trying to sell a game here.
Just to use the word network? Is that why he built a network? Because he has history in computer tech? All right, whatever. Maybe they explain more here. During typical summers, the regularly attended clinics and talks with coaches, gauging if they'd be interested in working with Madden to help create a more authentic game. When coaches visit the Madden facility in Orlando, White says the conversations resemble that of clinics. We have to make sure that everything they're giving us, we recreate it as accurately as possible, as accurately as we possibly can, from an AI standpoint, from an animation standpoint, from a look and feel technique standpoint, and from a look and feel technique standpoint. And to that, I actually did ask Clint about a specific thing about Madden that I wanted clarification on, and I asked him, do you guys actually have control? Well, I put it to him like this. So why the animations for catching a football in Madden, if your receiver is covered, are canned animations? Why is that? Was my question. And he said specifically, because it looks better.
Yep. That was the Rex Dixon days. Recorded them together. And I remember the first time they showed them in a trailer, people were like, wow, look at how smooth and seamless that looks. And it was smooth and seamless because it was actually a recorded event.
A canned animation, completely locked in animation. So I asked him after that, so it looks better, but wouldn't it play better if each player was individually their animation was individually controlled by whoever's on offense and whoever's on defense? He said, well, basically, and I could look at the text message, but I don't want to dig through that and find it. But he basically said in a nutshell, well, we find that our consumers are that's what they want, that they want it to look more like the actual game. And I said, yeah, but for people who are people who are gamers, people who want to play the game and want to have full control of the game, you can have swatting animations, you can have catching animations, but just allow it to be tied more to the player's ability to put himself in position and do the right thing, and depending on the circumstance throughout the course of a play. That would feel better to the player, knowing that they controlled the cornerback and swatted the ball, or they controlled the cornerback and intercepted the ball, or on offense, that the receiver actually responded to the Y button press and went up for a catch animation that's not connected to the DB in any way. Let the guy controlling that DB be more, be more involved in making that play. That's gameplay. That's tight gameplay. That's what NFL 2K used. Like, there was no receiver and DB locked in one animation. Each one had their own animation, and it looked just as realistic to me when they went up to go for a ball, because a lot of times they would use an animation that was appropriate to how they were positioned. So it may not be just throwing a hand up. They may actually jump to swat it off of the hands of the receiver as he's trying to catch it. That makes sense. Give them control over their player, and I wouldn't care how it looked. If I have control and I know that I made that play, not that the animation won out for this guy, that's a better game to me. I feel like that's a much better way to play it because it's a game. Now, if anybody, let me know in the chat if you guys agree or if you don't agree. I mean, I still feel like having user control is far more appreciated by players in the long run than having canned animations. Canned animations means it boils down to, okay, whose turn is it to catch the ball? And that really, that kind of nullifies the entire point of playing if you're just going to flip
watching. Yeah, sounds like you want to play a game and they want to make they want to make a game that you watch.
Yeah, it's looking better is good if you can find a balance between the way it looks and how it is actually controlled. And in this regard, they just didn't take care of it the right way. So let's go on with this and let's try and get through the rest of this article. Let's see where they're getting. Let me see where are we here? Let's see. Okay. Okay. And okay, we have to make sure that everything that they're giving us, we create. Okay, I read that part. We're right here now. There's a lot of facets that go into bringing the concept from film to paper to playbooks and into our design documents. We're building out the AI, designing the AI, going to motion capture, getting the actors to actually carry out those actions that we talked about with the coaches, and finally getting it into the game up and working. Then we're testing it and tuning it and making sure that it's all balanced. And don't we all know that they need to get back into the lab and do some more tuning? During the season, White's workflow consists of morning film breakdowns, watching games, analyzing specific formations and personnel groups. In a single season, NFL teams can run anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 total plays. So in order to add new plays during the season, White looks closely at the most widely used concepts. Sometimes, though, teams may show only a handful of plays out of a particular formation, and that creates an issue for Madden. Now, I think that it's safe to say that, the one thing that we probably can't or probably don't have much to complain about in way of Madden is probably the playbooks will probably be even though they're not that varied, because there are many playbooks in Madden that have almost the exact same plays across the board, a few different formations, but exact same plays. So I wouldn't call their playbook database, robust, but it's solid. It's fine. I wouldn't say that there's anything, at least in my opinion, that is particularly, bad about Madden's playbook. So for me, this stuff is not really getting to the issue that people want to hear about thus far in this article.
How much of this article would you say is factual, having played the game?
Having played Madden, haven't played it as long as we've all played it. They may have very well done these things that are said in here. Fine. Let's say you did. But you may have done them, but you didn't execute them well enough. You didn't execute them with any kind of consistency. You didn't execute them or build upon them in any way that really is meaningful to the experience that players have. One thing that there is no immersion in Madden. You're not immersed when you're playing that game. It's not immersed. You're not immersed. I don't feel like I'm battling not only the team but the crowd in a 2-minute
I'm
drive,
battling.
You know what I mean?
I'm battling with myself to not turn it off every other play.
There is no, one of the most simple things that they had in Madden back in the PS2 days was to hype up the crowd, to get the crowd into the game. The line, you click on the stick and whatever defender you're assigned to starts to, depending on what point you're in the game, they start to hype up the crowd. The crowd starts going crazy. And, I don't remember. Did they ever have like a kind of a screen shake situation with Madden where
they used to on the kicks? Yeah. I know what EA has really hyped up the crowd this year. If you want to look at their crowd as the consumers, we're all pretty hype. Oh yeah.
But yeah, there was a point though. Those were little touches that Madden did have that were productive that were constructive towards getting you immersed in the game. And now there's just nothing to the game when outside of just playing it. And that is where I think a lot of the problems lie. You look at 2K. 2K had the halftime show. They had a halftime show that would show plays from games that you didn't play in. They had They had year in and year out stats that would pop up on the screen while you're playing. Everything was ESPN presentation. You had a play, for a game that came out in 2005, you had the highest level. You had bleeding edge presentation and immersion in the game. They even had a first-person football mode.
To be fair, they did say the reason they didn't put the other games into Madden was because it's a faux asset. It's not, there's not another game playing in the background. It's just it playing, replayed highlights. Now, to that point, and granted, I'm a couple years removed from playing NFL 2K5. I don't distinctly recall seeing the same replay
ever
with different teams over and over and over. Ever. But I do know if we're talking about EA and they were going to do that, I have this really strange feeling that they would have about 15 different highlights that they would use. And you would constantly see like the same touchdown run, the same interception, the same, touchdown pass over and over and over. But to be fair, Rex was the one that came out and discussed that and basically said, we're not going to do this unless we can do it right. I guess we'll finish this article at a separate time, but I guess my question would be is if you were working at EA right now,
let's
right?
Go ahead and close that.
If you're working at EA today and I put this across your desk and I say, Uchi, we're gonna put this out. We're gonna promote this article and we want you to do that on Twitter, and you read those paragraphs you read. Are you going to sit there and say, yeah, this is something I'm going to retweet? Or are you going to say, no, there's no way I'm touching this?
I probably would do what I've done right now. I got halfway through the article and was like, no, this isn't really telling me anything. It's not really, what is it telling me that matters in Madden 21 that really has that we can look at the accumulation of all of these different ideas and concepts that they brought to the game and say, look at how it all has come together. Now Madden 21, they put all of these things are working in unison with each other on the field, and it brings the experience for playing this game to another level. They don't have that. They don't have that at all. It's just not. The game is, for lack of a better word, pretty soulless. It just doesn't have, there's no heart in the game where you feel like investing your time in it is really worthwhile.
I know there's another football. I think a lot of what you're talking about is the immersion. It's hard to get immersed in it. It's hard to feel connected to the game. I know there's another football game that I won't say that is working currently on these concepts, believe it or not. Like, when I heard them, it's so strange. When I heard these concepts, I was absolutely astonished. Teams that play in a dome are going to struggle when they go to weather games.
Yeah.
Teams that play on turf are going to struggle when they go to natural grass. Teams that play in southern states are going to struggle when they go to northern states. Or if a team has to travel 6 hours out to another stadium, they're going to not perform as the way they would. These are things that I really it never crossed my mind. But when you got, Adam Vinatieri, Mike Vanderjagt out of that dome, it was a real concern when they were kicking out in the elements. But it's really nothing that Madden ever dealt with. So to hear another game say, listen, we're going to take teams, we're going to take team approaches to this is the concept this team has, and they're going to struggle in these aspects. I think the biggest problem people have with unlicensed games is they don't ever really know the image of a team, right? You can try as much as you can.
Familiarity. There's no familiarity with the teams that you're playing with if they're not licensed. That's what was the biggest obstacle for a game like All Pro Football. All Pro Football is one of the most realistic game-playing football games that it was more realistic gameplay-wise than 2K5 was. It was more realistic.
To that point, though, because Shrek just made it in the comment section, it's not that they're going to play badly on grass. It's that your team that plays on turf is going to have an advantage over a team that doesn't. The
Well, the
same
team
way.
that plays on, like, okay, so here's a perfect example. When I was in Jacksonville, my 7 years there, we would go to the west. We went to the West Coast more than one time, only once in my 7 years there. But we played on the West Coast overall 4 times. Going from the East Coast to the West Coast to play football, even though for a lot of us we didn't think it was, because we didn't feel like we weren't ready to play a game. But going from the East Coast to the West Coast is not easy to play a football game. You want to know what and we're probably a more unique situation, but do you know what the score was? Our combined scores on a 4-game, I think it was a 2-season 4-game West Coast trip, 4-game West Coast playing opportunities that we played over there. We played 4 times. We went 0-4, and we lost. Oh my God, I'm embarrassed to even say this. We lost all 4 of those games by a combined total of, I think it was 84 to like 14. And I remember this was 2013. We played out there. We lost to Oakland, and we played 2 games back to back on the West Coast. So we lost to Oakland by like 3 points, maybe 3 or 4 points. But then we had to go to Seattle and play against Seattle. And we got our asses kicked against Seattle in Seattle. But we also went out there in a previous year and played against the Chargers, and we got blown out by the Chargers. And I think there was one of those seasons that they actually did the media, the NFL media actually did take note of the scores of teams that went from the East Coast to the West Coast. And I think there were only like 1 or 2 wins for the season on teams that did that. And that year, there was a lot of East Coast teams that went to go play in the NFC or AFC West for a game. So East Coast to West Coast, I mean, teams for some reason, and I think it has a lot to do with the time difference. The body, just from a nervous system standpoint, isn't ready to play, or isn't as sharp. I do remember in some of those games, I felt like it was an odd time to play football, even though it was 1 p.m. on the West Coast. I felt like our day should have already been over for some reason. So your body almost kind of starts going into a post-game mode while you're starting the game. And that can be a disadvantage. Yes. I think those are truly things that can play to the advantage of a different team. So one of the things that we did my last year in Jacksonville was we went out to the West Coast, and we stayed out there. We went out there 2 days early before the game to try and adjust for the time. And then we stayed there the entire week instead of flying back to Jacksonville and then flying back to Seattle. And I mean, it didn't make a difference, but it did help us kind of like lock into the time zone we were in, which did help. But yeah, I think that's you make a good point. Those are a lot of little touches that you can add into a franchise mode, into an online franchise mode, where if you have to go, if you're going from one side of the country to the other, your team may actually have like a -1 overall on -1 on their overall rank rating. So if you got an 85 team, that team actually, will drop to an 84. Maybe you lose a point on offense, maybe you lose a point on defense, but there's an effect there. And that's immersion. That does help with immersion, because you do feel like, okay, you have to be on point and play this game as well as you can play it in order to, not feel the effects, to not allow the effects of losing a point on your ratings, which could be a number of points for different players, depending. And that makes it a more interesting game. That makes it a more invested game. I think that's big for any development company that looks at that and says, yeah, that's something that we want to bring into our game and to help it feel like a better, more immersive game.
Yeah, it comes down to form. I mean, I know just, traveling to grapple, when I grapple here, Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, I can get up out of my own bed. I can drive to where I need to be. If I have to go compete, in the Carolinas or in Boston a couple times, out to Ohio a couple times, first of all, it's tolling on your body to get there. You're not comfortable in your environment. No matter what you say, a hotel is not your home.
Mm-hmm.
So, you get to a place you're in most cases completely unfamiliar with, so you don't go through, the same mental checkpoints as you would, when you were home, where I know, where I'm going to go. I know the people that are going to be with me. I know the people that are going to be around. When you don't have all that, it puts you there's no two ways around it. It puts you out of, your mind space. And there should be, and I guess this is going to come down to how realistic the people want games, but, at the same time, it's a real thing. I know that, the last time I went out to the Chicago Open, I know I got beat by a guy that had no business beating me, but, he beat me because I went out there alone. I drove, how countless hours to get out there. I stayed in a horrible hotel. I woke up late. It just, everything didn't go right. And that, having, went through racing, I learned firsthand that stuff happens all the time. I never had a perfect trip, if you will. I never went to one race where I felt like, oh, okay, everything went great. You were just thankful to have an average uneventful. If it was uneventful, you were okay. I mean, I've been involved in some of the stupidest things you can imagine, people pulling fire alarms out for no reason. Cause I guess they think that's funny at 2 a.m.
That's part of the difficulties of playing away, being the away team. You have to have a routine and a structure that is airtight so they can keep you at the very least within your level of comfort as it regards the elements of football that you're going to have to deal with, or the elements of racing for you. I've had away games where, we're staying in a top-notch hotel, but their beds are shit. So I wake up in the morning to get ready to start getting ready for the game, and my back is just completely knotted up. Like I got to go I got to go into one of the tubs they got for players that they brought with us for the game, and get my back, get a contrast done on my back where I get in the ice and then I get in the hot, then I get in the ice and I get in the hot to loosen up my back. But that's just part of it. So with Madden, I really think, I mean, we say with Madden, but really with any football game, there needs to be a level of immersion that makes sense for what football fans know and see, every Sunday, every Monday, every Thursday during the NFL season. There needs to be an actual emphasis on game planning. There needs to be an emphasis on roster building, on coach staffing, and things that really are the focus of the week-to-week operations of football. And there needs to be, I mean, obviously, with all the problems they have with data collection, with all the problems they have with their trade system, these are things that should be par for course. You should have a competent trading system in your franchise. I think we all agree on that. There should be a logical game planning system. I mean, the VIP system in NFL 2K is, the gold standard for anybody who's ever played that game and its franchise mode. The VIP system records everything you do. You can practice against yourself, against your own skill set, and find ways to improve your game. You can
Did you have the tablets when you played by chance?
Yeah, we had the tablets when I played. My last season in Jacksonville and part of the season in Dallas, we had, that they did have those.
Wouldn't they have the capacity to get, I don't want to say everything off those tablets, since you mentioned the VIP system and everything that gets tracked? Wouldn't EA have access to that since they have access?
They have no access to that.
Okay.
It seems like the data, that's a Microsoft and NFL thing. They're not even those tablets are only those tablets replace the old paper film notebooks that we would pop open on the sideline, and it would have, because they take pictures at the start,
black and whites. Yeah.
The first 3 seconds or the first second and a half of the game, you get a picture, and then it basically shows you what you did on your first few steps.
The grainiest picture of all time.
No, they're clear. They're clear pictures. Now with the tablets, all that did was make it color. And even with that, there was an adjustment period. Coaches hated that system for a little while until it became, until they patched it a few times and made it better. But a lot of things that Madden has access to that they just don't even, that there's never any consideration outside of the cosmetics on including them. Like, I would have thought that by now, maybe they would have changed the interface for play calling to make it look like you're calling plays off a tablet. Like off those Microsoft Surface tablets that they use. There's just not, that's those are the kind of small things that could make the game that much more to the fans. And again, we're wrapping this up here in the next couple of minutes. So we really appreciate everybody who's been in here on the chat. You guys have been consistent. Y'all have sat in here. Y'all listened to us go from talking about everything that has to do with Madden to going through some of the nuances that as a football player that I dealt with and for Ryan and his racing profession, there's nuance to everything. And it does play a part in creating a more authentic game. And people don't, with EA, with them not taking that initiative to try and and bring those kind of bells and whistles into the game to at least look like they're trying to build a winner, like they're trying to improve what they have already built on. It really comes off as just lazy for most people. When you think about it, you think that they're being lazy, and for me, it's a matter of time. They're getting away with it now by the simple fact that they're exclusive, but that exclusivity is probably already being looked at by the NFL. I would think maybe they're not in a position to cancel it, but I'm sure they're looking at it like, yeah, you know what? We're not renewing this one.
Well, they might be less apt to negotiate it. I mean, every year they kind of negotiate that price around. But to go back to your point with the play calling, if you remember, we mentioned the Dreamcast earlier. The Dreamcast lets you call your plays on that little the little dongle thing that went in there. Madden's never even begun to take advantage of that, at least on the PS4, the touchscreen panel, other than using it for the world's largest timeout button. And aside from that, since you mentioned the old tablets, today, going through the game, I thought this was absolutely the most EA thing ever. I've got and I'll probably put this video up at some point this week. My first drive, right? I actually kicked the ball off. I stop, I think the Bears maybe on they go, 3 and out. And on the sideline cut, the coach comes over and starts to talk to my offense with the tablet. And I'm like, what in the world would he be talking to the offense about with the tablet when they haven't even went out for their first possession? What is he showing them? What is he talking about? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Maybe they're going over, something from the pregame, but you can't even believe that because of how disconnected this game is. And when you look at it, you can tell it's like the Raiders and the Chiefs. It's not even as simple as getting an asset from that game. It's crazy to me how, if you really want to nitpick.
I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe that they were I couldn't believe how many errors there were in just the basic assets in the game.
Right. The assistant coaches that have never aged in 10 years, right?
That, I mean, players not being fully rendered.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Where in your
You know what?
code have you just not been paying attention to the fundamental like consistency of how your game even loads up? And and Tick Nation, I'm calling him out because he's been doing a lot of chatting here, and not calling him out in a bad way, but I think it's notable a lot of things he's been saying. The NFL is very protective of their product. You got to think they're going to say something, right? Can the NFL even pull the new license? And the point that he made there about the NFL is very protective of their product, that is 100%. I mean, I would say even more so than companies like Apple. The NFL is beyond, I mean, past the point of obsessive about their brand being totally shielded from or not. I mean, I'm not to say totally shielded, but to be totally held in a light that is worthy of being the most watched sport in the country. That brand is worth over $50 billion a year. So
yeah,
that is another point where I was a little bit surprised that they actually renewed that exclusivity deal, because I mean, they had to have known that for the past 4 years, 4, 5, 6, however many years you want to count. I mean, different people will say different numbers, but it's been at least the last 5 years.
But remember, what you're forgetting is, number one, remember, they came out and said they were close to pulling it, but EA presented them this grand plan of innovation that won them over. And the other thing that you have to at least remember is, at least the NFL, as far as I'm concerned, they may be, apart from a company like Apple, right, or Microsoft or IBM, they're one of the very few companies or brands, really, in the world that will put their brand over money. They're not going to just say, okay, we're going to let you tarnish our reputation for the sake of you being the top payer. So, we've seen countless times, look at the Papa John sponsorship. As soon as there's a hint of,
some out of bounds, dissatisfactory.
I mean, look what they did to Kaepernick, and then now they've came out, and Goodell said, "I wish I would have sat down with him sooner." They literally are one of the very, very few brands. They know now for sure, right? We can't say that they don't know. Someone in that office, someone at the NFL noticed, oh, hey, this is trending. It might not. Honestly, in fairness, it might not change anything, because there is so much money, but that what we really need is that seed of doubt, right?
Well, the thing is that this will resurface for the NFL multiple times throughout the year, because there are going to be events that are particularly catered to Madden football, the Madden video game. You're going to have the Madden tournament. You're going to have.
Oh, they canceled some of them, though.
They canceled some of them. Well, they're still going to have the Madden, the championship. At the end, when the Super Bowl comes around, they're still going to have the Madden championship.
They just cut the prize pool for that, though.
Oh, of course, because they know because now, I mean, dude, you have to imagine that the NFL was pissed when it basically trended how that Madden championship played out.
I remember
had to be so pissed. And
I remember an unnamed dev telling me that they came to them and said, we need to figure out why, basically they wanted to know, the NFL wanted to know why their product was being shown and the quarterback sneak was being ran over and over and over. And the following year was the year and if someone wants to track it, I did a video on my channel showing the difference. They literally came back and made it so where the quarterback would just collapse, like an 80-year-old at the Waffle House as soon as he got the ball. So they knew what was going on, and I'm sure they sat there and made it to where things won't be as successful. The real challenge that they thought this year, though, is you got to remember, you can go back and look just about every year. There's been a conflict. There's been a confrontation. I'm trying to think of the most polite way to word this.
There's been some type of technical issue that was taken advantage of.
Well,
there was
here's
a
the
broken
thing, though.
aspect of the game that was abused to win the championship.
Would he have? I guess the only way I can do is just say it. Would he have done that in someone else's face? Me personally, I don't believe he would have done that. I think being at home, I think being at home and knowing what was going to work factored into it. I firmly believe that although it was a winning strategy, had he been at an EA event, someone would have came to him and said, "Hey, listen, this, you really, need to dial this back," or something would have been done. It's just kind of one of those perfect storms. But as you said, it looks from the outside
absolutely amateur. It's like, what? You guys allowed this guy to win the Madden championship, and he hasn't thrown a single pass the entire tournament?
And then he bragged about it.
And then, you talk about just slap me across the face and call me Susie. This guy bent over the entire Madden brand and humped it into submission over the course of that Madden Championship Series, because and look, I watched parts of it live, and I just said to myself, watching the championship game, watching the last game, I was watching the other guy playing like, yo, how do you not just send your control through the wall?
My favorite moment was when I forget the two that were playing, and the one guy's controller dies. There's a moment.
Yeah, he died, and he's sitting there like pointing at his controller.
Right. There's a moment where the guy whose controller dies, right, is now getting the AI to call the defense.
And the computer is shutting him down.
Right, but it changes the defense. So the whole time he's been running this one formation. And there's a moment where the screen loads and the guy that he's playing against looks at like a standard 4-3. And he knows, I ain't seen this in about 47 games. Yeah. So he looks at it all kind of googly-eyed, like,
what do I do here?
Right. And he almost looks at it like, oh, I've got you dead to rights now, because you've got a defensive end, pulled tucked inside. Why would you not be running, like a wide 9 look that they usually have
to protect that edge? Yeah.
So, he gives it this. It's just so funny to see, here's a professional Madden player, and he sees a regular defense, and he is just completely taken back because it's, wait a second.
He thought he was just going to run dive right down this guy's throat. He ran that play with Gale Sayers at running back.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Ran to the outside and
tried to get to the outside, got hammered.
The look on his, like, I hate to say it.
He didn't know that dude wasn't playing. He didn't know.
He did. I think at that moment he did, because he knew the Ask Madden play was there. But if you ever want to see, there's I forget which Simpsons episode it is, but there's a Simpsons episode where like Bart shows Lisa breaking, maybe like Ralph Wiggum's heart, and he's like, "Look, if you slow it down frame by frame, you can see the instant you break his heart." There's a real world moment there where when you're watching that thing frame by frame, you can tell his excitement of, oh my God, the AI play calling has allowed me to win this game. And then realizing that even though this person wasn't playing, he shut me down. There's a real moment of jubilation and excitement, and then absolute heartache. And, to be honest, like, to me, that is Madden. I mean,
it's Madden. The Madden, the play, the on-field gameplay changes if you're not controlling it immediately.
Right.
And it becomes harder. And it plays itself, and it plays pretty precisely towards anything you try to run against it if it's on a hard difficulty setting.
That's why I never understood the people that say, oh, you want the game to be easy. You want the game to do this. Like, bro, we can't have that conversation anymore. This game literally beat one of the pro Madden players. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Why are we even, no one gets to talk about skill anymore. No one gets to talk about being good in Madden. I know you've got an ebook to sell here, but the reality is in the championship game, the computer, selected the plays and controlled the players to make, there's a moment where his controller dies. He's pursuing the running back.
Yeah.
But, the whole thing about that really took me back was, if you remember, they used to do the regs with teams, and every gamer got assigned a team, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if they pushed away from that because, you've got the racist issues, where now you've connected that guy to the Cardinals, or, Bill, the Jacksonville situation, being connected to the Buffalo Bills. I wonder if teams didn't go in and say, hey, listen, you can't have people like this directly tied to our organization. I feel like, though, if that actually didn't make a real change in how, the NFL looks at its relationship with EA, I don't know that this will. But at the same time, I've often wondered, since you just mentioned it, you knew Gale Sayers was the running back there. I know that, Ultimate Team helps drive all that monetary sales, and they want those, players to get those cards, which now they've made it this year. I don't believe there's going to be a cap this year. So all players are free range. I've really often wondered, how those players really do connect to younger generations, really, I know who Dick Lane is because I, obviously studied a lot of corners in my life. I know who Johnny Sample was one of the best corners I've ever learned about, right? The way he used to keep notes on every quarterback he ever faced and every receiver he ever played against. I don't know that a kid today gives any type of care about, Dick LeBeau, right? As a cornerback.
If it's not a universally famous,
right,
legacy player, then it's, if it's not a Barry Sanders, or if it's not,
have they really seen Gale Sayers? No,
they've never really.
But they're going to pay for him.
Yeah, they just know he's a 99.
It makes no sense,
and they're going to pay for him.
Right, it makes no sense
because that's what Mutt is. Mutt is the race to 99. And last year, I'm not even going to front. Last year, I competed in that race heavily. And I was like,
you could have bought a small car. You could have bought a Geo Metro, but you decided to spend it.
I could have got me a nice little Geo Metro, a nice little Honda Civic or something with that.
You could have been straight Fast and the Furious pimping, but instead you had to get that 99 team.
And here I am, playing Madden 21 now. I paid for it, but I didn't pay for it.
You're paying for it now.
I'm paying for it, based on my subscription to.
It's like Taco Bell. You don't pay for it, but you pay for it.
Yeah, you're not paying for it now, but you're gonna pay for it later. And Madden 20, I got on a Mutt team of 99s all up and down that roster that I can only use in Madden 20. Can't bring those into Madden 21 and dominate Mutt. So. It's really just a chase to 99, and everybody is playing, is really there to get as high-rated players as they can and find out what plays are the money plays. And
the heartache was you spent all that money, and if you go back, guys, you can watch some of his streams.
Oh, shut the
and
get the
12-year-old boys were manhandling him to the point that he was rage quitting. At one point called an interception you threw before you threw it, and then just the constant blaming of the game is absolutely hilarious.
Because it's the truth.
It's the game's fault, right?
You got defensive backs who just get warped in front of your receiver and just launch up and snatch the ball out the air.
Do you guys, is that what you said to Maurice Jones-Drew? I meant to block him, but they just got superpowers. They just shift right in front of me.
Shoot, when it was Albert Hainsworth, hell yeah. I was like, oh, sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
Look, that's we all know what's up with Madden, and the reason why me and Ryan are really doing this, this is our little drop EA community hangout. We want to try and get as much of the Madden community coming in and talking about the game here on these live streams. We're going to try and do this every Sunday. Make sure you smack that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can know when exactly we're going to do it. Because next week we're not going to do it. We're not going to start at 1 a.m.
Yeah, I was going to
Eastern
say
time.
every Sunday, meaning not every really early Monday morning.
Yeah, we're gonna do this. This is gonna be something we're gonna do probably more around the 11 to mid, or maybe the right around midnight. I would say. I think midnight's. You think midnight's a good time?
I would prefer 11.
11. Okay, let's call it 11 o'clock. So, make sure you guys mark that down. Make sure you're sharing this stream with your friends. Share it in the Madden community. Let people know that this is going to be the hangout, the meetup spot for all of Madden gamers.
Politely let people know. Politely. Don't
spam them.
Don't go spam your least favorite commentator, please.
But we want to hear from the guys who are out there even competing in Madden. We want to hear from these guys.
No, you speak for yourself. I don't want to hear from those guys at all.
Well, hey, I want to hear from them.
I've already heard.
We'll even bring them onto the stream if they want to talk and actually have a conversation about Madden. Because look, man, they all.
Oh, now you're selling pay-per-views. No, now you're selling pay-per-views.
Hey, regardless of what they say, they know Madden's messed up. They know it's messed up. They just know how to take it. They just know all of the crevices of the game so well that they take advantage of it. And on top of that, some of them are sponsored and they get nice little perks from EA, which, hey, I ain't mad at them for taking them perks. If that's what you can get, then that's what you can get. But, come on. You got a professional NFL player who played 7 years here, almost 100 starts, there was no backup in me. I never backed up anybody for a second.
Okay, don't take cheap shots in Clint.
No, I'm not at all. Not at all. I mean, just I know the game. I'm out there. I've been out there. I've been in the tight games. I've been in overtime. I've been.
You are the trenches.
We've won on Hail Mary passes. I'm in the trenches.
Blowing up the Colts offensive line. I know. I remember. I was watching, screaming at you, never knowing years later.
Yeah. So Ryan's been doing this for a long time, and all of y'all here know him. And you see the kind of exposure that his hard work, years of pointing out things and having people come after him and say
being garbage. You see what it's done. You've seen what it's finally done.
Seeing people coming out and jumping on him and saying he's a nitpicker or this and that, but now he's on Barstool Sports. They're talking
now
about
it's popular. Now it's cool.
Now
it's cool to hate Madden now.
Now it's trending, and now people are seeing it, and they want to be in on the trend. But he's been there before the trend. So who do you really want to hear talk about that? Somebody who's just jumping on the gravy train, or somebody who's been riding it since it was
somebody who started the gravy train?
You know what I mean? A little locomotive.
I was
running on coal.
I was on the gravy train when it was just the flour train. We didn't even have the gravy yet.
Before it even got thrown into the deep fryer, he was already there mixing up the batter, getting everything right. So, we want to have this space here for the Madden community, for everybody to come out and, hey, you can even send Ryan video from plays that just show more of the issues with Madden, and we'll play them here on the stream.
I want to see what I want to see is you break down an actual line play in this game and try to make some type of reasonable sense out of this game.
Yeah, dude, I'll do it. I'll break down plays. I'll break down what should happen, what should happen and compared to what is happening. Hell, if you look on my channel, for anybody who's interested, check out my channel. I do breakdowns on offensive lines with real game film on my channel. I broke down the Cowboys. I broke down the Niners. I broke down the Chiefs. I broke down the Titans. I broke down a number of different teams already in their offensive line plays, just plays that I picked throughout the course of the game. And it's all coaches film, all 22. So, I know how to look at film and tell you this is what should be happening on this play just by seeing what they're running, how they're running it. These are the guys that the O-line should be going to. These are the guys that the tight end should be going to. This is where the running back should be looking at, or in protection. This is the coverage they're running. This is the route that they're throwing against that coverage. Is it the right coverage? Is it the wrong coverage? So I can look at a Madden play, and I mean, that would be like, it would be more of deciphering, a clusterfuck.
I was going to say, deciphering how messed up is this? If RBT gets a lab coat, you can be Professor Uchi, and we'll get you whatever a professor would wear, and you can literally sit there. This will be the reason people tune in next week. We're gonna pick a play where a lineman has to pull, because we all know that's the death knell for Madden. If a lineman has to pull,
oh my
chaos.
God. If a lineman has to pull, you're either going to run directly into him,
directly into his rump,
and then trip and fall on the ground, or he's going to run past the guy that he's supposed to be pulling for, and you're going to think that he's going to block that guy, and you're going to get hit sticked, fumble the ball, and they're going to scoop and score.
I love it. I love that whole, I'm going to run to where the gap is in the line and then hesitate, stop, almost take like a drop kick, like a drop step, turn, you're going to run into me, and then hate yourself for even following the play out. Or I'm just going to run out full speed and then completely whiff on any player I could tackle. We're going to have you do that, and then maybe just one or two screenplays.
Yeah, we're going to look at a couple.
That should be
of
4
plays.
hours.
Now, I will say this. The screenplay has improved in the game, from what I can tell.
Oh, I can't wait till next week then.
Okay, so unless somebody has film of, you know what, for everybody in the chat,
don't backpedal.
Go and find screenplays, go and find pass plays, go and find some power run plays, and if you find, plays that are of extreme nature, send them into Ryan, and we'll pick 3 plays to break down next week on this stream.
Remy says we should call this the scientist and the professor. I feel like that's like 10 years ago with the N1 mixtape tour.
Now let's this is the last super chat of the night, coming from Austin Mario 13. Austin Mario 13, thanks for the $5. He says, Ryan is a Colts fan. Sorry to say. LOL. Hashtag NFL drop.
All right, still holding on to that. Holding on to the one Super Bowl there. And Mario was my favorite anyway.
All right, guys. So we're going to bring this thing to an end. Big shout out to everybody who's here in the chat. We really appreciate it. You guys have been here for 2 hours and 13 minutes.
Over 2 hours.
You guys are warriors. You guys are truly dedicated to this Madden fiasco and exposing what has just been a total lack of innovation, a total lack of work ethic. I mean, I would think. I mean, and I'm not saying that these people didn't work hard to make this game and get it out the door. I'm saying the people who are responsible for helping to grow this product. I mean, grow for something that's new.
I'm sure
you don't say grow for something that's been here for 30 years.
I'm sure they worked really hard. I just haven't found out.
These people got jobs, and they, I'm sure they had deadlines to meet, but we're not gonna accept apathy as consumers, as people who pay for these products. We're not gonna accept a company not respecting the people who actually put the money in their pockets. And if they're going to, tell us that they're working on a product and tell us that they're trying to build something that's going to be worthwhile for us, then you need to deliver. Because if you don't deliver, you know what the mob will do to you. The internet mob is coming, and the Madden mob is coming.
Yeah, the Madden mob is here. And listen.
Yeah, the Madden mob is here. That's right.
And they're here to stay.
And they're here to stay. And you guys have all been great. We really appreciate it. Like I said, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Ryan Moody 21, Uche Waneri. You type in my name as you see it there on the screen, then you'll see my channel pop up. Want to make sure everybody gets notified when we're going to be doing this. So it'll be next week, 11 p.m. Eastern time. Mark the date. We'll be back, and we are going to dive even deeper into more of this horror of Madden 21 for you guys, so that we can just all just kind of just try
embrace
to
the
make
suck
sense.
Is what we're gonna do.
Try to make sense of the madness. Embrace the suck, because it is ugly out here. So really appreciate everybody. Hope you guys have a wonderful week. Everybody stay safe out there. We will talk to you guys on the next one in a week.
Oh, don't even do that. I'll have 14 videos up this week, guys. I'll have 14 videos up between now and then, so you won't miss me too much, I promise. But thank you, everybody.
Yeah. We'll talk to y'all later. Y'all have a great one. Much love. Peace.
Have a good one.